We are back on the Lance State Radio Show. I am talking to Skip Peace, Reginald Skip Peace. He's sharing his experience. I grew up kind of looking up to Skip, someone that grew up, lived in Allegheny East, played ball at Pine Forge. I did a stint in Trenton, New Jersey as a young man. We played against Skip in high school. He would come to Pine Forge, or we would be in Philly playing in the church league, and he'd do all these ridiculous dunks. I thought that you were a little bit taller than 5'11", so that actually makes me feel bad because I'm 6 feet tall, and I could barely. On my best day, I could put one through. On a really good adrenaline-fueled day, I could put a couple of down, but be able to do windmills and stuff. And I asked Damon Leggett when he was on my show. I don't know how. If you're 6 feet tall, you should be able to dunk if you're in relatively good shape. But I don't know how you get into where you're doing the windmill stuff and the cradle stuff. That's a whole nother level of athleticism that I assume comes in your DNA. And Damon was very cavalier about it, just like you were. He's like, well, where I grew up, I saw other people doing it, and I said, if they can do it, I can do it. So I just went to the gym and worked, and I kept trying to put it down until I could put it down. Next thing I could do a windmill. Next thing I could do a reverse. So that's a very interesting backdrop. You talked about your time at CUC, Columbia Union College, which is now Washington Adventist University. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions, Skip, about the spirituality. You touched on something that's really important. Here at Advent Sports Network, all of the stuff that we do is really based on funneling money and mentorship and information back into the young Adventist sports community, and not just Adventism, but Christians, really setting the table for the next generations. We were talking before we got started up about you just in the process, you actually literally picking up one of your sons from practice for football. So it's kind of imparting that next generation. What was it like having a very high skill level, and what were some of the temptations to be involved in leagues and opportunities to go against your religious beliefs as far as playing on the Sabbath? I mean, how did you balance all of that, being a Seventh-day Adventist, with all of that talent? What were some of the pitfalls or temptations? Did you buckle to temptations? Did you not play on the Sabbath? What were some of the decisions you made?
Well, being in D.C., you have a lot of opportunity. You have all the major schools, Georgetown in Maryland, GW, and D.C. and Maryland had some of the best summer leagues and men's leagues. And you would be at one league and someone would see you and get your information. And I remember one time I was contacted from somebody from Maryland University. They had just had a scandal, and they were having an open tryout. And I definitely was tempted to go. I mean, I had nothing to lose, but I was thinking at the time, what if I make it? What if I actually make the squad? Talk about the whole compromise. It would have been very difficult to say no. So I just didn't go, and I just stayed with my boys, stayed with my fellas, and I think that was definitely a good decision to make. So many different people. I mean, so many ball players, man, and you get the opportunity to develop friendships and bonds with people. It would be easy to say, you know what, I could just do this one time, whatever. But temptation was definitely there, because your whole idea is the whole purpose of most ball players is try to play at your highest level possible. Growing up at Adventist, I saw a ceiling. It was a ceiling for basketball. My whole thing was, hey, if I can do good here at Palm Forge, maybe go down to Oakwood Alumni and do some work in that tournament. That was it. I didn't see it going past anything else. So I never really had a high expectation as far as basketball was concerned. And early in the game, we didn't have there really was no competitiveness as far as maybe not competitiveness, but we really didn't have any type of rivalry kind of thing because we didn't play in leagues. But CUC was probably one of the first schools that had a league. So now I'm going into my senior year at Palm Forest, and I'm thinking, you know what, maybe that ceiling got a little bit higher, you know, because now CUC is in the actual basketball league. So that's why I wanted to go there versus Oakwood. If Oakwood had a league or CUC didn't have a league, then I probably would have gone to Oakwood, but I was just chasing my dream to play ball at the highest level. So that's how I ended up at CUC. And I didn't have to worry about the temptation because I was able to play at a collegiate level, and I didn't have to worry about the Sabbath because our schedule was, you know, was already made and it was cool. But it would have been easy. It would have been easy to just say, you know what, you know, my parents really had a big influence on me, and they definitely wanted me to stay grounded. And it was for me, it was a no-brainer, you know, go to Adventist school to play ball. It kind of dropped in my lap. I remember General Conference, they were making that decision on whether we should be involved in competitive sports on any level, and I think they left it up to the union, which CC's in the Columbia Union. They made the decision to go ahead, and that was the beginning of it. So, you know, I think it was a good thing, and that ended up, and now Oakwood's in one, and Andrews was in a good league, and I think Atlantic Union College was in a good league. So it turned out fine. So, you know, it was we had an outlet, so that reduced the pressure of playing on the Sabbath or playing at a non-Adventist school. So it definitely helped us.
What would you say, as we kind of draw to a close, Skip, what would you say to young people that are in a similar boat? I think in your era and even my era, people were less likely to play on the Sabbath. The era, the kids that I coach and work with, it's a lot more of a temptation than it was 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. I'm not a judgmental person. I have one of my good friends, Sergeant First Class Julian Kitching, was on the show, and he was a really good football player in high school, and he chose to play. He grew up Seventh-day Adventist. He chose to play. He said on this show that he did not regret his choice to play, that some of the lessons he learned through that process were instrumental in his development as a man. What would you say, kind of a two-part question as we wrap up? A, what would you say to young people listening that are going through mulling that over? And B, what do you do to get a 40-inch vert, man? What do you do to get those ups where you're doing those cradle dunks and stuff? Because I'm still trying to understand. I'm taking myself back to 16, 17-year-old James Lewis, that there was no way that I was going to do any of those dunks. And I'm just kind of curious what the secret is. If you can answer those two questions as we wrap up, I would appreciate it.
Well, first of all, you have to find your niche. You have to, as a young adult, you have to have your personal relationship with God, and you have to make your decision, and you got to live with your decision. You know, even in adolescence and young adulthood and adulthood, there's going to be consequences, and you know, like even now, I have consequences for my actions. You know, you'll have consequences for your actions. You know, talk it over with your parents. You all sit down, make a good decision, and look at all your options. There's a lot more options that are out now that we did not have. And I look at Adventism in general. You know, growing up sometimes it just seemed like a lot of rules or whatever. But you actually are able to do a lot more with competitive sports, and you don't have to necessarily see the ceiling that some people may have seen in earlier days. One of the things I would be curious about is if I was a football player, I was a football player, a good football player, and the Sabbath issue came up. How do you deal with that? And I can't pass judgment. I have no heaven to send you to, or hell, no hell to keep you out of. You know, that comes from your personal relationship with God, your family, and you sit down and you make the right decision. You know, and I'll say one thing, change up a little bit. One thing I did hear, and I think it was from your dad, man. I remember being at camp meeting. I think I had some music on or something, man. And he walked past the car that I was in. I was playing the music, and he said, you know, things that you do, even if you're not necessarily telling somebody, somebody's always watching. And
my
that,
father.
You know, yeah.
Nice reference.
Yeah, man.
I didn't see that one coming.
You know, yeah, man. So
my father was probably
that.
working. He was probably working location at camp meeting with Pastor Talaferro and Pastor Boyd.
Pretty much.
Some of those guys and caught you.
Yeah, man.
That's interesting.
Yeah, man. Because I was, you know, it didn't. You know, for me, I was just sitting at the car. I was by the cafeteria, and I was jamming. You know what I mean? I wasn't thinking nothing of it. And he walked by me and gave me a look and said, "Yeah, you know, the young kids is watching. They look up to you." And at the time, I was like, I didn't know. You know, at 17, I don't want that kind of responsibility. But you know, later on, you learn. Hey, man, as like I'm talking to you right now, I had no idea he was watching me. You know.
Right.
And other guys come to Damon Leggett.
Right.
I talked to him. I didn't know he was watching me. You know, so you gotta be careful because you don't know who's watching. And you know, and who might say, you know what, I'm doing this because you did that, you know. So definitely gotta watch. But I would say for any young person, you know, you have to have a personal relationship with God. And even if you don't have one, you get one. If you had one and lost it, you can get it back. And for the adult as well, because we all sway. You know, we all compromise. But you can get it back. Anybody can get it back, man. So, yep. But as far as the jumping ability, heredity, man. There's nothing I did, to be honest with you. And for me, I didn't realize that I had this incredible jumping ability until people started making a big deal out of it, and I was able to do things that other people couldn't. We always used to laugh about that because we would go play different places in D.C., and no one knew how I could jump. So we used to either do a fast break, they throw me an alley-oop, or I would just like take off from almost a foul line. Right. They was like, hold on, where this come from? No, because in every game, I would get somebody. Like, I think the biggest still got dunked on was like 7'4". You know, we scrimmaged Navy one time. I dunked on a guy, he was 7'2". And just because they think they would play me like a poop butt, and I would just keep going, man, because they wouldn't expect it. You know, they think, oh, I got this cat. They going up halfway, man. Bring in the pain, brother.
The Lance J Radio Show is taped at Advent Sports Network Studios, located in beautiful Emerald City of Seattle, Washington.
Hello, I am Dr. Arlene Archer, otherwise known as The Life Doctor, and you are listening to the Lance J Radio Show on Advent Sports Network. Between juggling my professional responsibilities as a clinical psychologist and independent business owner, and my personal interests as a wife and mother, I make the time to fulfill my passion of helping others through inspirational videos. Join me on my YouTube channel as The Life Doctor, where I vlog on home life, education, health, fitness, and more.
Great show, man. I've gotten a chance to check it out, check out several of your episodes, man. I think it's a breath of fresh air. It's great to hear people that you wouldn't ordinarily hear talk about sports and ministry in the same conversation. And I think it's relevant, man. And I just want to encourage anybody who's listening to spread the word about this. This is a great opportunity, not only for some great dialogue and discussion, but also some great ministry as well. So, man, hats off to you, man. You're doing a phenomenal job.
Sports talk, ministry, excellence. You are listening to the Lance J Radio Show.